Hey beautiful people, and welcome back to the Combat Carnivore.
Today I wanted to make a video about eggs because I think eggs are a lot more nuanced than what we're getting in like the media realm, because they're either evil.
And then on the other hand, we have carnivores who are saying like eggs are a superfood. However, then we see quite a bit of us having an issue with eggs on the carnivore diet, and so we have to go more of a lion diet. That was kind of like tripping me up, because if it's a superfood, then why are some people reacting to it negatively? Because I don't really buy into that. I don't really buy in that if I think that if it's a true superfood like red meat, then all of us should be able to benefit from it no matter what. It shouldn't have things in it that we should be reacting to negatively, like certain plants. Like the whole idea of plants have defense chemicals in them, and though it doesn't affect a lot of people immediately, it will in the long run. And those who are already sick, it affects them way worse. Like for me, I can't do plants at all anymore because of how negatively it affects me. I can't do eggs either, really, unless I do them a very specific way, and that's only because I've been doing some deep, heavy research on that. So first thing I did is I looked up, do eggs have defense chemicals in them? And so I'm going to scooch over to this screen real quick. Yes, eggs have defenses against bacteria and predators. You can look into this a little bit deeper, and I did a deep dive on it, but the short answer is yes, they have toxic molecules in them that try to fend off predators and bacteria. The idea is an egg is defenseless, just like a plant. It can't run away. The mom can't always be sitting on the egg. The mom has to go off and eat and do other things. So when that egg is left alone, there has to be some sort of defense chemicals and compounds in there that's going to help defend the egg. And what's very interesting is, you'll see later on in the video, I tried to give an egg to a dog, and that dog isn't interested in eating the egg at all. And if it was a superfood, which the parts of it are, but like there's something in there that's preventing the dog from eating it. Of course, this is much more nuanced than what we realize, but like that dog either doesn't smell what's inside there, that it's nutrient dense, that dog isn't intuitive of what's inside that egg, or maybe it knows that it's surrounded by a layer or like a sheath or a force field of defensive mechanisms. That's why a lot of people who have autoimmune disorders might have a problem with eggs. So then I started diving down even further, and you know what I found? I ended up finding that eggs actually have a protease inhibitor, and I had to look up, what's a protease inhibitor versus a proteinase inhibitor. But regardless, the idea is that we have this thing called protease in our body. It's a digestive enzyme that helps us break down proteins. And especially if you're on a carnivore diet, and being a carnivore in general, eating protein is going to be one of the fundamental staples of our diet. So we need to be able to digest protein. Do eggs have protease inhibitors? Yes, eggs contain protease inhibitors, which are proteins that prevent digestive enzymes from breaking down egg proteins. Egg whites are a rich source of protease inhibitors, including ovomucoid, ovoinhibitor, cystatin, and ovostatin. And sorry if I mispronounced any of these. The thin or watery part of an egg white contains protease inhibitors. Egg whites are a rich source of protein inhibitors of proteinases, belonging to all four mechanistic classes. I find that very interesting because it's either like demonized or touted. The only thing I really hear from people are, it's like, well, some people can't handle it. Well, why? Cooked eggs versus non-cooked eggs, right? And you kind of hear back and forth, like the egg whites are sometimes better when cooked, but also you don't digest the proteins within eggs. And it gets really convoluted. But basically, the proteins that are in the egg whites or that are in the egg are oftentimes being blocked from being able to be digested by the protease inhibitors. And it turns out that there are other defense compounds that even come to light as you start to cook the egg yolk. So some egg yolks have defense compounds against them, and not so much in chickens. But if you cook them, it brings those defense compounds more to the surface, in the sense of it makes it more problematic for you to be able to digest the nutrients that's in there. And so I started researching more about eating raw egg yolks. A lot of people, you'll see them, and I don't usually eat eggs from, I usually get like all my pasture raised eggs, but they'll just get in here, they'll get you know, all the egg whites out by putting it in between their fingers right here. And then they'll just scoop the egg yolk raw, just like that. And so a lot of people will just do a ton of, like I did a podcast with Todd from the Carnivore Cure, and he just does a ton of egg yolks in like a big like protein shake type thing that he does. Like gets rid of all the egg whites, just does the egg yolks, bam, hits it raw. And I like to do it like that, just through the fingers, because it's really easy. I have these podcasts I do with Todd, and Todd does like 50 egg yolks, raw egg yolks, in like his own little protein shake, and that helps him kind of build up those omega-3s. He doesn't have a problem with it at all, but he does have a problem with full eggs. He does have a problem with cooking eggs. So it's a lot more nuanced than what we realize. In addition to that, if that chicken is fed any sort of omega-6, if they're fed grains, those grains are high in omega-6s. And a lot of us are dealing with health issues because of inflammation and an omega-3 to 6 ratio that's totally messed up. Chickens only have one stomach, which means that they're absorbing those toxins into their meat and into their eggs. You can tell the difference between a high quality egg and a low quality egg based on what they're fed in their lifestyle. So then not only that, do you have to consider, is an egg healthy or not? You have to consider what that chicken is eating and what kind of lifestyle they're leading. Because you can start putting inflammation into your body by eating this thing that's touted as a health food, and then all of a sudden you're trying a carnivore diet, you're told eggs are like this impeccable thing, but now you're still not getting the full healing that you're seeing all these other people get. I did not start seeing as many benefits as I do now until I went full lion, until I started giving up these eggs. And then so I wanted to run an experiment, and you're about to see that here. So I'm going to bring a dog in right now, and I'm going to give the dog all 3 options, and I want to see what the dog eats and what the dog avoids. So looks at the egg whites, looks at the full egg, looks at the egg yolk. Especially since dogs, they're much closer to their DNA and their genetics, where humans, we have a lot of logic reasoning that can manipulate our natural biology. Like we can force ourselves to like broccoli, force ourselves into bad habits. However, if you go to something like something that's a little bit more primal, right? But something that you can hand feed, something like a dog that, you know, is carnivorous, what do they want? And so I went to my sister's house because my puppy's not here right now, because I've run this experiment on my dog, and my dog won't even touch the egg whites. Some dogs will scoop up the egg whites after they eat the egg yolk, crack an egg into a bowl, and watch the dog lick out the egg yolk. Some dogs won't even touch the rest of the egg. Other dogs are just hungry and they'll eat anything. But if you give them an option of all 3, if you give them an option of egg whites, a full egg, and just egg yolks, watch which one they prefer. It's funny because every once in a while they'll like go to the egg whites, and then they'll realize this isn't right, and then they'll look over like, oh, that's all egg yolks, and because that's where all the nutrients for life is. And that's when people start touting like, yo, this has all the nutrients to build a life. Remember, that's a life for a chicken embryo, a reptile. What I mean by reptile is like they have their ancestry much closer to reptiles. However, yes, they are correct, they are growing a full life, but it's more nuanced. I believe that there are plenty of anti-nutrients as well as defense chemicals that are causing a lot of problems in people. Do I just eat the egg yolk raw? Do I, we're changing our minds completely from the thing that egg white omelets and I only eat egg whites and this, that, and the other thing in order to be healthy, to saying now the whole egg is a superfood. Now to saying, well, now actually maybe I just suck out the egg yolk raw. It gets really interesting. I want you to kind of do the research for yourself, but just know that it's not just black and white. Thank you so much for watching. Remember, we are healing men and rebuilding men through steak, strangles, and stoicism here at Combat Carnivore. Always remember to don't do drugs and don't eat vegetables, and to eat as much red meat as you can. And we're going to go ahead now and cut over to a few experiments of cats and dogs being presented with egg yolks and egg whites.
Okay.
What would no juice?
Okay, put it down.
Good
Good girl.
Another quick experiment I wanted to do is see what a dog does with an egg by itself. I'm gonna invite Ziggy in. If this was the superfood that we thought, if like we were designed to eat it, why wouldn't a dog just break it open and lick out what's inside of it? See, I'm even gonna try and feed it to Ziggy. Ziggy, come here. So he put it in his mouth and he didn't break it.